In this episode of Idea City.
This was an empty place. That was the job given to me by my client. Can you put people back in this place? And actually now I can't get into my favorite bar. You can't. You know, it does rain a lot in Singapore. So obviously you had to have a roof, and it changes color, and people are there all the time. I think that West Dundas could be like that, but with, plus greater range of mixed things to do, and just allow it to evolve as quickly as possible.
Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
The last time Will Alsop was with us, his instant classic Ontario College of Art tabletop building was just sort of being brooded about and about to be built, and the usual kvetching was heard in the land. It was too outrageous, it wasn't consistent with the neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. I related to it instantly. I thought it was witty and fabulous. It's turned out to be an effective building on top of that. So we've asked him back here, Will Alsop, who's adopted Toronto to our benefit. How are you, Will?
Thank you. Thank you. Hands up who lives in Toronto. I don't. Having said that, there are some people in this fine city who think I do, and I'm very proud of that. And I like Toronto. I have to say, when I first came here in the year 2000, I didn't like Toronto. I thought it was ugly, boring, difficult people. I can't think of enough nasty things to say about it, but there could be more. But I had that same experience in Marseille when I first went there in 1990. And you realize that as you get involved with the place, you really think it becomes fabulous, more interesting. It reveals its secrets, and Toronto has many, many secrets. And I think it's wonderful, and I enjoy being here even in January. So if you like a place, you think about it. If you're an architect, you have to, I believe, like a painter. If you don't paint, you're not painting, are you? If you're an architect and you don't have any work, you can still do architecture. You can dream about a place, and I've chosen to dream a little bit about Toronto. You see, I think, and this is a dream which doesn't rely, well, I should explain. When I was in my 20s, I was full of philosophy and theory, and I downgraded that in the 30s to sort of concepts, and then at 40, that became sort of ideas, and at 50, sort of notion, and now I'm 60, I have no clue. And it's a really useful position to be in, because I look at the waterfront and I think, well, why the hell would you want to get there? And the waterfront, believe me, is the product of lots of applied theory, best practice, all those terrible things that actually get in the way of making a creative city, in my view, okay? And it's not just Toronto. I see it in many, many places. They've talked the shit out of all this place. And what do you end up with? You end up with these sort of residual bits, which are just crap. So if you go back a long way, and this is the best thing, you realize that Toronto, the waterfront, was not the waterfront at one time, a long time ago. It went well in. And I've been thinking about Dundas, West Dundas, and how that actually could be the new waterfront. Not to bring the water back again, but just to have somewhere, which I'll take you on this little trip from Ossington down towards the Ryerson campus. And I haven't finished this. It's an ongoing project. When I get a few moments, I sort of do a little bit more, do a bit of talking, do a bit of thinking, et cetera, et cetera. And I see that within this place, within the blue line, could be much better than the waterfront. So do the Gardner, and that would be, you can stand up there, and from certain places on the elevated Gardner, of course, you can see back to the true waterfront, which is to the north of you and not to the south. I know there's some people in here that love the lake. The lake's great when you're away from the waterfront and in it, rather than on the waterfront. So I'm going to start off to the at Ossington on the left, and you see it's very, you can create a sort of space, can't you? You can create a space on the corner of Dundas and whatever that street is. And of course, I'm well aware that this is a sort of emerging sort of hotspot, really. So why don't you have a nightclub? Why don't you have a nightclub with a view? Why don't you put it on top of a stick and surrounded by some lower-level stuff? And maybe that's okay. At least you could see where this place is. And then you proceed in an easterly direction, and it's about animating the streets. Now, I'll come back to, well, no, I'll say it now, that there's a possibility of saying that the whole of this blue line is, in fact, a sort of museum, in which case I'd encourage the City of Toronto not to build any more museums. You've got enough museums, to think really of what a museum could be, and a museum is a part of life. Most museums are a part of death, which is one of the things that I've always sort of worried about. You go and see some beautiful things, some interesting things, but somehow you've got to decide to go to the museum. If you can't avoid going to the museum, it'd be better, wouldn't it? And anyway, what is art? Could art, for example, here, could it be the art of hairdressing? This is a hairdresser's shop, but like in the street or near the street. That you can go in, have a gin and tonic, and decide what your friend's hair is going to be like. No, I think this is a part of life. It's a very serious part of life, hairdressing. Look, I just had my annual haircut. I'll just pass this tip on. It's great only having a haircut once a year, because when you come out of the hairdresser, everyone says, oh, you look so much younger. If you go every 6 weeks, they never say that. So it's nice to have that bit of applause. Or the newsstand, and for me, the cigarette shop. Look, so you know when it's open because it opens. Now I can see a number of those being spread down the street. Why not? And then you get to Alexander Park. I guess you know Alexander Park. Do you know Alexander Park? Yeah? You ever go in it? No. No, because it's a dog's toilet. It's miserable. You get this funny kink, and you think, well, you could put some buildings there. And you could reduce the size of the park, and you begin to make this sort of secondary link going east from the park, which is to the south, but a more intense park. What about a rose garden where elderly people can sit and do nothing? Or indeed, young people can sit and just fall in love. There aren't enough places. You would never do that in Alexander Park at the moment. More intensive gardening would be quite good. And perhaps some sort of institution there and some office. Who knows what it is? And to the right, maybe, well, we'll come on to that. So at the ground level, under the building, and I like things on legs, you know that. I can't help it. It's just one of those things. And is other components of this museum, but useful things, a program from things happening above, maybe, or what does happen above. It's a good question.
When we come back,
You can live, work, play, and do whatever you do in this area, and it just changes over a period of time, rather than this wholesale redevelopment, which on the whole doesn't work.
get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at www.ideacityonline.com. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
You have a fantastic space underneath. I did put car parking here. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, I did. And there could be a big shop, and there could be a combination between shopping and maybe learning, and there could be a great dildo on top, is a hotel, of course. And so you mix everything up together, and on the taller thing, that's like a sort of vertical village where it has schools, places to live, very localized shops perhaps, and the road. You just take the road up around the outside of the building, so everyone's got a front door onto a street, more or less. You know. So you can go on in that way. What would it be like as you pass through this elevated institution, or whatever it turns out to be? Here you're seeing the possibilities of the spaces as the park extends through and underneath this pile of shit above. Marvelous, isn't it? There's a rather dark view of the same place, but sort of like mysterious, to have different places with different qualities of light. Of course, the air rushes through. You're protected from the rain, and you need to be in Toronto today. It's all right, isn't it? You can say yes. Good. Oh, I thought I was onto a loser there. And then with the other buildings that go around, you end up with something that's good. And you've still got a park, and you've still got public space. It's just more usable. More, dare I say, it's an architectural word that architects, it's not an architectural word, it's a very common word that architects never use. Cozy. Germans have that word, gemütlich. You know, I am not a minimalist, I am a maximalist. And I like that, because actually it's more interesting. I go around to some minimalist friends' houses, and I have to sort of fight to get some sort of table to put my gin and tonic on, because it might mess the place up. Oh my God. Smoking, just forget it. And we must move on. Here's this sort of multifunctional thing, village, call it vertical village if you like, that's a common term. And then we proceed further east along. And of course, to the north is Kensington Market, which I started to sort of dream and think about a long time ago, and had an exhibition here at Olga Korput's gallery of just drawings. You know, having walked around it, and, you know, the big threat here is that some wretched investor is going to go and buy a lot of this place, and soon they just knock it down. But of course, it's a very vibrant place, full of life, and what I like about it is it evolves. But it will have a future. Maybe that future. What happened then? Oh yeah. Oh well, I explored it with these things, paintings, drawings, whatever you like to call them. It's all the same to me. Maybe just insert things. Let the ground level insert. I mean, it's a bit of a great. I sort of developed this phrase, sort of urban fog. I think fog is more interesting than sunshine sometimes, because it makes ugly people look all right. But the shops can go on evolving. You have workshops, you can add some extra places to live, and you can live, work, and play, and do whatever you do in this area, and it just changes over a period of time, rather than this wholesale redevelopment, which on the whole doesn't work. You know, build in the gaps for sure. Float things above, that's great. Then you get to Spadina. And I think there's an open space missing here. You know, that brown bit could be an open space quite easily. And the other thing that you're short of here is hotels. So, like, here's a hotel, quite a rough hotel, but not too expensive, but very particular. And these are beginning to emerge in the city, which I'm very pleased to see. But you could there's room for more. You know, a place, look, you're in the bedroom. It's all about sex. I always thought that was the whole point of hotels, actually. But you know, the bathroom, the shower, everything becomes an object within it, and then you can do things with it, and that's good. I must admit, it's something I'm doing in China, but I just thought it'd be better in Toronto. And then over the street, because of the rain, you know, we might concentrate on fashion a little bit. You know, we don't just put a regular cover over it. You put a scarf, don't you? But a scarf made of steel, so as it moves around, it just sort of clunks a bit. You know, I like that. You know, as architects, we don't think about noise in a positive way. We just think we want silence, but actually, we don't. You need a bit of noise. That's why I quite like cars, and that's why on electric cars, which are inevitably going to come, which is going to be great. And they had to invent car noises to go in them, because otherwise you get run over. It's true.
When we come back.
So we get to University Avenue, which I always thought that the worst thing about University Avenue is it's too wide. And it could do with a few things in the middle of it. And it seemed to me that there could be a shared, fantastic library for all of the universities and maybe other institutions that lurk around this area.
Great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
This park is actually better than Alexander Park, but it's not great. You know, you could put a flower stall there, and you could actually begin to animate these spaces, because that's what we thought. And around the world, you know, people. If you ask the public, and I really enjoy working with the public, because that's where I steal all my ideas. steal them from them. But they always say, oh, we want a park. And then you get architects and you get worse than that, politicians and planners saying, we must have a park. This is not a criticism, because actually when I get my hands on your project loads, I'm going to convert it again, okay? Is that all right with you? Thanks a lot. Oh, everyone loves a park, but the truth is you end up with empty parks, as I said, full of they're just dogs' lavatories. But they are green lungs, and I think green stuff, but put the green stuff in the streets if you can, as well as having some places to relax, etc., etc. Then you get to university, because the other thing you realize about this line, there are 3 learning institutions around. You've got the University of Toronto, you've got Ryerson to the east, and of course there is OCAD, which I know exceptionally well. These should all be contributing to this line, in my view. So we get to University Avenue, which I always thought that the worst thing about University Avenue is it's too wide. And it could do with a few things in the middle of it. And it seemed to me that there could be a shared, fantastic library for all of the universities and maybe other institutions that lurk around this area. So there it is, which goes down in the medium, I think you call it, the central reservation, we call it, in university. I couldn't quite sort of, see, wouldn't that look fabulous? This is a bad view of it. I couldn't find a photograph in London of an oblique view down university to really illustrate the point. And then, of course, when my wife first visited Toronto in 1968, I'd never been here then, she came back, I said, before I came in 2000, she said, I said, well, how was it? She said, well, it's pretty tedious, really. But City Hall was beautiful, you see, which it still is. But if you go behind City Hall, it's horrible. Completely horrible. So everything is focused to the front bit, facing south, which is obvious. But, that sort of pink bit up there, just behind City Hall, could be something. I haven't got around to thinking about that yet. Maybe shopping, I don't know. Anyway, you see there's lots of work to do on this line. And then you go offline a bit. There's Maple Leaf Gardens, okay? Lying there empty. Great edifice, a great sort of memories of things gone, but you've got other facilities now, and there it is, empty. Do something with it. More hotels, some office and living above, maybe. Maintaining that fantastic hall. Maybe it should have something to do. You have this fabulous fashion week here. Maybe it should be fashion year. Maybe fashion week should never stop. You just have highlights throughout the whole year. Look, here it is. Inside, dashing around. Imagine all these rather beautiful people, not size 0, as you see, just animating this space all the time. What about all the fashion courses that go on in a city like this? Where do they show things? What are the related fashion items that could actually contribute and make sense of a big space like this? So if you're interested in that sort of thing, and we all are to greater or lesser degrees, that's where you just head for. You don't have to wait for Fashion Week to come around. The Bay department store should be in a bag. Just bag it up. And then you can do things on the bag, It just needs a rethink, doesn't it? I'm glad you agree. I didn't print any books for you to sign this or to make a petition. I didn't do anything on Twinkled or Twiddle, whatever it is. This is like my own sort of private thought. But it's my way of exercising my peculiar brain. Of course, this is not self-promotion, but it is something I did in somewhere. Oh, Singapore. A roof over the street, a new place to sit and eat. This is called Clarke Quay in Singapore. Completely free cooling in the street, which I take from the Singapore River. And this was an empty place. That was the job given to me by my client. Can you put people back in this place? And actually now I can't get into my favorite bar. You can't. It does rain a lot in Singapore. So obviously you had to have a roof, and it changes color, and people are there all the time. I think that West Dundas could be like that, but with, plus a greater range of mixed things to do, and just allow it to evolve as quickly as possible. Architects always say, don't they? Oh, this is a 25-year scheme. I think I'll be dead in 25 years. I want to enjoy this myself. Oh, better make that next year. And so I just wanted to leave you with this reminder of really where you don't want to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Thank you.
What Toronto needs to do, because it's actually quite a creative city anyway, but it hides a lot of that. It's better than it was, but I think everything that goes on in the city should be different to anywhere else, so it actually celebrates the individuality of this place and gives people a reason to come and enjoy.
Okay, now look at me.
There you go.